a meditation of hell inspired by a childhood nightmare I had. So, the nightmare that I had, I was probably about 8 years old. All my grandparents were still alive, and I was on good terms with all of them. For some reason, I had a dream that my mother's father not only died, but was in hell. And me and my mother took a elevator, maybe a elevator, to visit him. And if you can think of an ant farm, how you can see the different layers, imagine this immensely massive hellscape vertically. Think of this huge, bigger than Mount Everest, massive, flat mountain where there were carved out coves all up and down, kind of like the Matrix with the bodies, but they were in like a cove or a small, very small cave. Uh, and each soul was locked in these captive caves. So the elevator that my mother and I took would not only go up and down, but it would go left and right. And we were doing kind of like I think it's the rook. I'm not good with chess, but the L-shaped movements the horse dude, the knight or whatever, goes for. And it was those kind of L shapes we were going, and we finally saw him. And the elevator opened up, and we were in the size of a small room. Like it could be the size of some people's bathrooms if they're rich enough. But it was a moderately small room, all stone. I think there was a toilet, there was a bed, and he was just stuck there. And it he seemed very deteriorated and like drained and tired and worn out and just wrung very thin. And I could only imagine the torments he went through. They were probably internal at that point. This is all in a dream world, but they were probably in his head. He was probably being tormented internally and stuck in this room that you can't leave because you're miles up in the air in a little carved out cove with thousands upon millions of other souls in their own cove. And that was the dream. But I could go on to imagine that certain realities based on the temptations you fell to in your life could present themselves either externally, but probably in this dream, internally. So, to use my grandfather as an example, but remember this dream happened, he was still alive and well. So, I don't think it's a prediction. But for instance, he could have had to deal with abuse uh, that really he probably suffered in this life too. He grew up to be an alcoholic and verbally abusive and emotionally abusive, and then he became a grandfather and changed. But in his moderate, like middle age, he had a lot of demons, and he was controlled by them. And I think if that was a prediction, it would be a sign that those same demons that influenced his free will be the same demons that torment him in his eternity. Now, again, there's been a mass said for his soul. I personally don't believe he's in hell, but I could be wrong, and that could have been a prediction. But since he passed away, I have not had any spiritual encounters with him. I had a dream spiritual encounter with my mother's mother, and I had some messages. I don't know how to explain them. Just little, I don't want to call them coincidences, but weird things happen after people die sometimes. And those for me are a sign that everything's going well. I will say I did not receive any of those from my mother's father. when he passed away. That was that. I've received dreams from my father's mother. I've received waking messages from my father's father, and I've received several messages through dreams. And those are a whole different series I could do. There was no words spoken, but we communicated through a very pure emotion. It was a very unique dream. But for now, I want to meditate on hell, and that is one way that you can imagine hell.